and it's made a big difference in Washington, D.C., and we need to continue that and move it forward. But I will tell you that the young lady that I had the opportunity to talk with is somebody that, if you got to know her, you know that why Rand is so great, because he has a wonderful wife, and her name is rand-paul.
It's great to be here. I can't tell you how much it means to me and to Rand when you are working hard and you're in a campaign to show up somewhere and see so many people out supporting you and giving you their energy and their friendship and, most important, your prayers. So many of you have told me that you keep us in prayer, and we are truly, truly grateful for all of the friends and supporters that we have. So thank you again. I know if you're here today, you, like me, are just incredibly proud of the way that Rand has represented us in the United States Senate. For our liberties, for privacy, for the Constitution, for the taxpayer, for balanced budgets, Rand has been there for us. Whether he's been on the west side of Louisville or in eastern Kentucky or right here around home, his message is always the same. That big government really hurts people from all walks of life, and that's why he has supporters from all walks of life. I'm always encouraged by all the young people I see that come out to our events, and I'm just so incredibly proud of him. But you know, with Rand, he does not just talk the talk, he truly walks the walk. In 6 years in the United States Senate, he really only has complete control over one budget, and that is his U.S. Senate budget with his staff and his office. And despite being one of the hardest working members of the United States Senate, with more legislation and more work that he's done, he's actually turned back more than $3 million to the U.S. Treasury in the last 6 years out of his own budget. Like, oh, you can't even cut 1% in government, or you can't cut 5%. With rand-paul has proven that you truly can if you want to make a difference and if you really believe in what you're talking about. He's got incredible energy. That's evidenced by all the work that he's done in the last 6 years. His first love is still eye surgery as a doctor, and even though he's not officially in practice anymore and can't be, he still does pro bono surgery because he loves it and because that's truly where his heart is, and he believes more than anything else that we all have a God-given talent and ability, and if we put our mind to it, we can give back, and that's why it's so important to him to still go around the state and do surgery, and also around the world. He's been to Haiti, and he's been to Guatemala even after being elected as our senator on medical mission trips with other doctors to give back. So I'm just incredibly proud of him, and I know you are too. We just celebrated our 26th wedding anniversary about a week ago. And he's a great father and a great husband, so please join me in welcoming my husband and your awesome U.S. Senator, Rand-Paul.
Kentucky stands poised to be a conservative state for the next generation. Is E-Town going to be there for us? On Tuesday, if we show out in droves, those of us who are conservative, who have conservative values, those of us who believe in the Constitution, those of us who believe the government shouldn't spend money they don't have, that we should only spend what comes in, if we show up in large numbers on Tuesday, Kentucky will become a conservative state for a generation. Yeah. What it takes to do that is really from top to bottom. And look, I'm not a guy that goes around saying Republicans are always better than Democrats, but I can tell you, the Democrats in charge of the House have not done a good job in Kentucky. We lose jobs every day to Tennessee, we lose them to Ohio, we lose them to Indiana. As a country, we're losing those jobs overseas as well. We have the highest corporate income tax in the world. So where do you think companies go? I mean, in Canada, I'm embarrassed to tell you, Canada has a lower corporate income tax than us. The income tax in Canada is 15%. It's 35% here. You wonder why jobs go overseas? If the taxes are high, business is going to go where they're welcome. They're going to go where the taxes are reasonable. But it's not just taxes, it's regulations as well. We have the highest regulatory burden in the world. You can't have the highest taxes and the highest regulatory burden and expect that we're going to survive and thrive. We've got to reform our government. We've got to take our government back.
Amen.
There is a clear choice on the ballot. One side wants to raise your taxes. They want to punish corporations. They think somehow we'll get more jobs if we punish corporations. You know who owns the corporations? Firemen, teachers, policemen. Anybody that has any kind of retirement fund owns part of the corporations. We're all interconnected. If we think this is somehow about beating up the boss, that the worker's going to do better if we beat up the boss, punish the boss, and take more money from them, that is a defeatist sort of attitude. That's sort of this belief that it's a shrinking pie, that you need to grab yours while the grabbing's good, but it's not going to ever be enough for everyone. Well, what about the idea that we can grow again? Does anybody remember what it was like under Ronald Reagan?
Yeah.
Ronald Reagan didn't come to Elizabethtown and say, let's get the man, let's burn the mansion down. He came and he said in Kentucky and across the United States, he said, let's grow it for everybody. He said, let's lower the taxes on everybody, including the wealthy. He thought the rate was 70% then. He took it to 50. Then he took it to 28. You know what happened? We grew at 7% one year. You know what 7% means? That's like 7 million jobs being created. You know what we're growing at now? About 1%. Man, I don't know about you, but I can't stand 4 or 8 more years of these people. James Comey came out and told us Hillary Clinton was extremely reckless. She had casual disregard for national security. She put her emails out there against every rule of the State Department, but he said, well, darn, he didn't think he had enough evidence to indict him.
Darn.
But if that had been a soldier, a private, a corporal, a sergeant, or a general, how many people here think they wouldn't have been prosecuted? Absolutely not. We know it happens. We know sometimes soldiers make mistakes and have an email on their own computer. There is no leniency for it. And yet Hillary Clinton somehow, there seems to be a different set of laws for the Clintons, doesn't there? So then James Comey came out and said, whoops, I made a mistake. No, we are going to investigate. We found some more emails, 650,000 emails, and we're going to look into this Clinton nightmare. We're going to see what Clinton did. And everybody's like, all right, maybe there is equal justice under the law. Maybe everybody is going to treat him. Then he comes out 4 days later and says, oh, whoops, we looked at all of them and apparently it's not a problem. But you listen to what he said. The first time he said, you know what, classified emails are not a problem, which most of us think it is a problem. So now he's saying, yeah, there's more classified emails on Huma Abedin's sexting ex-husband's computer. Really, and that's not a problem? You don't think he might be open to extortion, given his lifestyle and the things he does? With national secrets on his computer, nobody broke the law? I guarantee you, somebody broke the law here. But I'll tell you this, I'm quite proud of one vote I made. I was the only senator to vote against confirming James Comey. Yeah. And I promise you this, when the Supreme Court comes out, when we come up to vote on another justice, I'm not voting for any justice that does not believe in and will defend the Constitution. To defend the Constitution, you have to understand and believe in the separation of powers. You have to believe that the bodies of government, Congress, the President, and the judiciary are co-equal branches of government. Where did that idea come from? It came from our founding fathers. But one of the philosophers they looked to is a guy named Montesquieu. And I brought this up in a debate the other night with my opponent. What's his name?
Julio something.
And he had the gall to say, well, my opponent, he's just talking about obscure philosophers and arcane knowledge and these founding fathers people. And it's like, it has never been more important now than it was 250 years ago when we talked about it. Most of the rules, if you're in business or work for somebody else's business, most of the rules that hamper your everyday life, Brett didn't vote for them, I didn't vote for them, they're not laws. They're regulations that have been written by the executive branch. And what Montesquieu wrote, the advice that our founding fathers followed was this. Montesquieu wrote that when the executive, when the president begins to legislate, a form of tyranny will ensue. It was a big deal to our founding fathers that we not give too much power to the presidency. We did not want a monarchy. We did not want a king. And when I say to people, or when I criticize the president, when I want to give him the worst insult I can think of, I say he's acting like a king. And he has. You remember he said he had his pen, he had his phone, he jolly well was going to do what he wanted? That's what a king or an autocrat or a despot does. That's not what a president does. We have to. This is the biggest problem we face. The rules and regulations are being written by bureaucrats, not by your elected officials. You remember immigration law? He changed immigration law for 4 to 5 million people and said, well, we're just not going to enforce the immigration law for these people. Now look, we can have a variety of opinions over what we should do about immigration, but we can't let one person make that decision. The regulations that have killed the coal industry, Brett and I didn't vote for any of those, and we wouldn't have voted for those, and yet they happened anyway. They've devastated eastern Kentucky. It's come to western Kentucky, and you say, well, I may not be a coal miner. Well, you know what? I'm not either. But occasionally a patient of mine might be, or you might serve food to one, or you might sell equipment that goes to a coal miner. But also listen to this. When they're done with the coal miners, they'll come for the farmers. They are now regulating the family farm. 95% of the farmland in Kentucky is now under federal control. I read a story the other day that says that when you plow the land and you have the furrows, you have a little bit of dirt in between the furrows, they're calling that a mini mountain. Because they say they're allowed to regulate. I'm not making this up. You may think I'm making this up. I am not making this up. The EPA says they can regulate the family farm because there are mini mountain ranges where the field's been plowed. And you think, well, maybe they're just going to fine us if we plow the dirt in the wrong direction. No, they will fine you and they will put you in jail because they have and they continue. These people are hell-bent on being involved in every aspect of your life. We must unite. We must turn out. We must get our neighbors to turn out. And we must do everything possible to take this country back. Look, America's the richest, the freest, the most humanitarian country ever in the history of mankind. How do we get to be humanitarian? How can you be your brother's keeper? You can only be your brother's keeper if you have something to give, if you have the ability to help. That comes from freedom, the prosperity that we got from the government largely saying, go out and prosper, trade with your neighbor, grow stuff, sell it to your neighbor, but the government was largely going to be in charge of law and order, but they weren't going to be in every nook and cranny of your life. If we want to continue to prosper, if we want to continue to be the greatest country on the planet, if we want to continue to be a country that gives away, individually gives away more than most other nations produce, we have to believe in our founding documents, believe in who we are, believe that our rights come from God, and that we will defend them. I will continue that vein. Thank you for your support.
Hey, Steve. Steve. You wanna? We're live here. Back out. We got a great team working there.